given us some material for further questions. Mr. Mavros, Mr. Zachariadis said that a problem, a difficulty with two-party contracts has to do with the fact that we don't have storage and one of the two parties has to assume a great risk. So, as a question, let's say that storage technologies are delayed in the next years. For example, I hear that at the end of 2022, we will have a framework for storage in the market reform, but we're a long way to go. So if that is true, this scenario, maybe we don't actually succeed in this green transition. That's one question. And the other that has to do with the title of our panel. This energy increase is structural or conjunctural? First of all, I want to disagree and agree in order to change a little bit the discussion. First of all, structural or conjunctural? Some say it's a black cycle, some say we expected it. The fact is that energy goes up and down. That's how it happens. We are going through an energy transition, and that creates some special conditions. And I want to disagree with Mr. Zachariadis respectfully. And let's put things in order. You had a lot of interesting information, but I've also seen the presentation by McKinsey, and I do disagree. Simply by reviewing information from 6 months and without actually taking into account the energy transition itself, perhaps the situation becomes a little warped. But in any case, I do not agree with what I saw, especially for natural gas, since we don't have a very good forecast for RES. I agree with Professor, with what he said at the beginning. We have a one-way street. If we had done these things that we're talking about today, we have done them 10 years ago, we wouldn't be talking about it today. It's that simple. So RES is a one-way street. And let's not forget that the basis of all our discussion is the climate change, and we cannot ignore it. Second, we talked about the de facto digitalization. It was the case. It continues, but now it's actually the euro. We are proceeding. We are not going back, no way. And the reason is that we are already paying the consequences of our delay. So we either proceed very bravely ahead by creating and implementing this plan, or things will get worse. And perhaps the scenario that Mr. Zachariadis mentioned will become true. So that's a general comment. Now, the market. Can it incorporate the lower prices from RES? That's where the two-party contracts come into play, the agreements. RES will not be subsidized, so the sooner in the long run, so the sooner we move into these two-party agreements, the better. You know that we are constructing right now the first project in Megalopolis with a two-party agreement. There, yes, someone is assuming the risk, but if we don't do that, then we will never get started. So we assume the risk, we assume the cost, we assume that we take the decisions and we proceed to make this. Storage. RES without storage, we will never gain the full benefits because there are two. We talked about volatility, everyone talks about that. On the side of the RES, there's this stochasticity in production. I think everyone agrees to that, and that will be counterbalanced by storage. Which storage technique? We're talking in general, with any storage technique. We need them all, or a good mixture of all. Is there a volatility in fossil fuel? Yes, we are experiencing it right now, and that was always the case. In the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s, and today. So, in order to move to an effective way to combat climate change, which is the main problem, and in order to deal with the pricing issue right now and benefit from the energy transition in full, because we're talking about a reduced cost that will help the industry, to all that, the solution is RES and a good mixture, storage, and let's not forget the grids. and it's a one-way street. There's nothing else. And an answer about whether or not this crisis is structural or conjunctural, I said that from the beginning. We're talking about differentiation in the market, where there's an up and down fluctuation. This is a special condition right now, high demand, and that affects the prices of the natural gas. But looking about this is something that, in my view, in my eyes, will be improved in the next months. Perhaps we see some more increased prices in the short term, but in order to deal with that, we need to construct more RES. So we have many views, many ideas. Some say that this is not going to be a transitory phenomenon, but these cycles of high energy prices will be repeated in the next years, that we will continue to have high prices. Some say that prices will de-escalate and we will move into a more normal situation. And everyone talks about storage.
Good morning. Congratulations for this conference, which is one more step to organizing a conference with everyone present here next year. I would like to say a few things about what I have already heard. First of all, let's talk about the crisis. The crisis is a conjectural crisis, and what is sure is that it should concern us. It is a worrying event. It should, let's say, function as a wake-up call. It can be conjectural, but it is conjectural, but it could become structural. It is something that we are going to see more and more frequently, and we should, I would like to underline the word wake-up call. How did wind energy start to develop? At the beginning of the answer is at the beginning of the 70s, when some pioneering Danes decided that the crisis of the 70s had to be tackled in a different way, and actually planned and created the guidelines for the development of a vast industry that today provides us with tools that enable us to tackle this crisis, which is due to our dependency on fossil fuel. The crisis is not caused by renewable energy sources. It is a crisis that has been caused by natural gas, which is a fossil fuel and which should prompt us to pass on faster to green energy. The thing is that this transition into green energy has been planned by the European Union without any plans regarding, let's say, alternative routes. This is another thing to discuss. It's another issue altogether. How we should transit, the way to transition, the way to green energy is something completely different. We need to examine all the options open to us, but the time we have to transit to green energy is something which is out of this. It should not be discussed anymore. We need to start immediately because we have to spend a lot of time. It's not something that will happen in one night or in one day or in one weekend. It's not something easy. It's something which requires a lot of work and will take quite a few of the coming years. And we have to speed up. The minister is right. Storage, we have already spoken about that. It has to go fast. Networks, there's no renewable energy sources without networks. We need smart networks, we need low voltage networks, we need all these networks together. This is very important. We need offshore wind farms because they have less volume, they take less space, and that's very predictable as far as their production is concerned. And of course, we need a mixture of technology because a land wind farm is not the same thing as an offshore wind farm. We need a mixture of energy, and we need storage capabilities, and storage capabilities cost. The cost of electricity production right now is 2 to 3-4 lower than the cost of operation of a wind of a fossil fuel, let's say, unit, and even more, 4 to 5 times the cost of an electricity power plant operating on natural gas. All this together should lead us to achieving a cheaper power production cost. And naturally, we should go on to green energy, and we should do it faster. I don't think that we should even mention the fact that we're now in this predicament because we are going very, let's say, faster, because we're going very slowly, and we need to actually give space and give opportunities to the more vulnerable among us. And to do this, we have to boost our industry. Let us go on to Mr.